Hi, Mr. Caselli. I'm here with my parents.
I'm Conchetta.
I'm Rob.
Okay, so first question is, how long have you guys been married?
Almost 25 years.
25 years this October.
And how old were you guys when you met, and where did you meet?
I was 18,
I was 19.
and we actually met at a rock club.
We had some common friends, and I was with the guys and she was with the girls, and we met that way.
Why did you guys decide to get married?
That's a... I don't know, because we loved each other and wanted to be together forever.
We had dated for a long time, and actually we had been through a lot together. We had lost some family members and some friends, and I always admired her because she was there for me. I had lost my dad at a young age, and I was dating her at the time, and she was just a rock at the time. And then I lost one of my best friends, actually two of my best friends, and she lost her grandmother, and we actually lost a number of people. And we realized that even though, we were younger when we met, as we started to get older, that we were kind of meant to be with each other, and we've been there for each other ever since.
Wow, it was
Anything to
deep.
add? Anything to add, Mom?
No, I think you said it well.
Okay, so describe your engagement.
The actual proposal.
Either.
Yeah.
Anything.
I honestly had no clue because we had dated 10 years before we got engaged. I had no clue. He was going away on his first business trip
Overseas, that is.
overseas, and we went into the city to see the tree because it was Christmas time. And on the steps of St. Patrick's, he proposed. I was absolutely floored, obviously ecstatic, but I had no clue at all because I figured it was 10 years already, so what's a couple more?
Well,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it took us a while. It took both of us a while. We had gone through, as I mentioned, a number of losses in our lives that I think emotionally we really needed to work through them before we moved forward together as a couple in marriage. And then I did talk to her parents before I proposed and made sure that they were good with it, and her mom and dad, and they both were okay with it. After they got my check, of course. No, I'm kidding. They were good with it, and they gave me their blessing. And then I wanted to make sure we were on the front steps, so we were on the front steps. And my father had passed away, but I had told my mom about it, and the ring I gave her was actually a stone that my grandfather had set aside for me. My grandfather was a jeweler in Manhattan, and he had left that for me, and she had said she always wanted a princess engagement ring. So I went and I got the ring made and put the stone in it. And then when we got engaged, it was great. We stopped at my mom's house, and then we went to her parents' house, and then we were engaged for 9 months, and we got married that October.
How does the reality of marriage compare to your expectations about what marriage would be?
Would that be BC, before children? Or,
Before kids.
no, I think I think it's always, we learn a lot from each other, in my opinion. I mean, I'm always learning from her. I think one of the things we do at times is we do challenge each other. Sometimes we get mad at each other. Sometimes we are each other's best friend. But I think we always know we are each other's best friend no matter what. And sometimes best friends are going to be real close. Sometimes we're going to argue. Sometimes we're going to be, just knowing that each other's there has been probably the most important thing for me. And as far as it meeting expectations after we got married, we actually bought a house right before we got married, and we were doing a lot of work on the house. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And then we were just very blessed. And then her parents moved out by us because we moved to Suffolk County, and her parents moved out by us. And they helped us out a lot. And I think it was just, I think it was a really nice thing. I mean, I was in a lot of bands at the time, and she was working in Nassau County, so she commuted every day. So at times we were ships passing in the night, but we were we always knew we were there for each other because we had known each other for so long. So I think it was pretty much what I had expected it to be. And we had a lot of great times, and I actually missed our first house. It was fun. We did a lot of work on that house.
St. James?
Yeah,
Yes.
St. James.
I don't know if I had any, it sounds silly, expectations of what married life was going to be like. I think only because, like, things just change. You know, like, we moved into the house, and then we had a child, but you were working, and jobs change, and we had kids, and then we moved, and, you know, life throws curveballs at you, and, you know, how you handle them. So you kind of, I really didn't know what to expect. Does that, like, make sense? Just that, you know, we were going to be together and just do whatever we had to do to get through it. And
Yeah, I think we've grown stronger as a couple because we've been handed, more challenges, not just with the marriage, but with kids and with moving and with all kinds of things, family and friends and all different challenges that life throws at you. So, but I think we've endured them together. So, there you go.
Bouncing off of that, how did children affect your marriage?
You're laughing. They're expensive.
they're expensive. I have a lot more gray hair. Well, I think it just made, I think it made us better people. I think it definitely tried our patience, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It definitely, I think, probably made us closer because now you definitely have to do teamwork when it comes to raising children. So we might not always agree, but at the end of the day, we have to agree because you need a united front when you're trying to raise your kids, with the values and expectations that we have of our children.
I think they're the greatest gift I've ever had.
Besides me, of course.
My three. Well, I'm saying we have three kids. We have our oldest who's now in college, and obviously Mary, and then we have our youngest. And they each bring a different dynamic to the family, and I think having children is truly a blessing. You never realize. I remember the first time when we had our first. It was his birthday's on December 23rd. He was actually born right before Christmas Eve, and the first time you hold your child, and then when I held her, and then our youngest, you can't believe that God's given you that gift. It's totally overwhelming, and you would do anything for them. We have a little bit of a different situation. Our youngest is special needs. He's got Down syndrome, and that's another. We learn from him every day as an example, just like we learn from the older two. We both do, it's interesting because we do things together, but each one of us has special things, like, Conchetta and Mary have their special things they do together, and Mary and I did a lot of things together, and like with our oldest and our youngest too, we each have things that we do separately and then together, and I think it's made our marriage stronger, and I think it's made our family stronger to be in the position of not only having the children, but you look back and you realize, I think with Mary, just because this is Mary's project, I mean, when Mary was younger, I think I coached just about every team she had, most of them, and it made us very close, and she, did, well, not field hockey, sorry, but most of the sports she got involved with, and it formed a bond that will never go away, and it just made our marriage better. So that's my opinion.
Okay, and then bouncing off of Mom said something about having, instilling morals in us.
Mm-hmm.
Was a big thing to align with your values and morals, and then what you guys were gonna pass down to your kids? How important was it to align?
It's paramount to me. I think it's I mean, we're both Catholic, obviously, and it was very important for us to have them grow up in the faith and receive the sacraments. So now our oldest two have received up through confirmation. Tommy's through communion and reconciliation, our youngest. And, you know, they both, our two older ones attended Catholic high school after attending public school. Rob went to Chaminade Mary's, obviously in Kellenberg, and we wanted to have them grow up in a faith-based background. I think in today's world, there's a lot of challenges around, you know, body, mind, spirit. We spend a lot of time on social media. People spend a lot of time being distracted, and I think spiritually we struggle, and we wanted to make sure that that was very high up on the list of things we were going to do. So we brought them to the church, you know, obviously, and Mary's obviously embraced it. She's part of the Life program and the Eucharistic minister at our church, and we've just been very blessed. And I think it's really important to us that they learn that moral base.
Yeah. But I also think you have to lead by example, though, too. I think just trying to be good humans who are kind and caring and thoughtful. I know that's a big thing that we try to instill in them, you know, no matter how bad somebody's treating you, or, you know, it's very hard. We always say it's very hard to raise your kids today, only because not everybody has the same values and morals and is raising their kids the same way that we do, kind of in a more conservative, very like loving house with strong like morals and stuff. But I think hopefully, you know, with the faith-based school and church and our example, hopefully that, you know, rubs off on them. I would.
Okay, so kind of changing it, like, do you think that couples should live together before deciding to get married, and why or why not?
You want that?
That's a hard one. I'm not going to tell somebody else what they should do. They're going to live their own lives. The 18-year-old me might have been like, yeah, why not? It could be fun. But the 50-plus-year-old me is kind of like, no. And I don't know if I'm saying no because as I lead by example, I don't want to tell my kids that. We didn't live together before marriage. Even though we had bought a house together, we didn't stay there until after we were married. I don't know. That's a tough call. I think, again, I would prefer that my children did not do that, because I think certain things should wait until marriage between a couple. That being said, I don't know how realistic that is in this day and age. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't think... I think that it almost comes... you know, when you decide to get married, you give yourself fully to somebody else. And I think that's, at that point is when you're ready to make the lifetime commitment to live with them. I think, yes, today's a very secular society, and a lot of different lifestyle things are accepted and embraced, but I'm a bit more old school, just like Conchetta was saying, that I don't think couples who are not married should live together for a number of reasons. But I think it's you need to make that commitment to each other. And, you know, yes, we talked about faith-based, but we make that commitment to each other in the eyes of God as well. And I think that that's really important. When you make that commitment, that shows that you're not only committing yourself to the other person, but obviously to your children. And what kind of a message does it send when... Because basically, you know, when you're married, in theory, you know, it's till death do you part. So you make that commitment and you work hard to work through some things that may not always be easy to work through. And if you're just living together and there isn't that level of commitment, there's times when it's much easier to abandon ship, so to speak. So I do think that there is a level of commitment you need to make before you live together, in my opinion.
So then kind of bouncing off of that is, what advice would you give to teenagers who are dating and thinking about getting married?
Well, I think today's world, again, because when you look at teenagers years ago, teenagers, by the time they were 16, they were adults. 17, when they were adults, just 150 years ago, whatever it is, and most people didn't live all that long, so they became adults at a much younger age. Today, kids go to high school until they're 17, 18 years old, and then they go to college or university potentially until they're 20, 21, some beyond that. And I think that there's a level of maturity that it's changed a little bit. Years ago, so I should say, when you think about the kids today, I don't know, they're not forced into life or death situations at a young age. For example, what I was saying was 150 years ago, you had to work, you had to be on the farm, you had to do things or whatever it is to support your family right away at the age of 16 or 17 years old. I mean, you had to work, or the alternative, there really was no alternative. Today, there are a lot of different alternatives. You can go to university, you can decide that you're going to take some time off, you can decide that you're going to live with your parents for a long period of time. So I think the world has changed very rapidly in a shorter period of time, and because it's changed so rapidly in a shorter period of time, I would think that a young couple would want to make sure that they're in the position where they want to be growing as an individual and knowing that they're going to bring that to the marriage, as opposed to getting married at a young age and then not being able to feel that they were able to do some of the things as an individual, so they don't bring that to the marriage. What I was saying before was, years ago, because your life depended on it, people got married younger, and then they learned to live together and grow together through that. I think today, like I said, it's just a different ball game, and it's a different society. So that's what I would say.
You're talking like teenagers getting married, like young.
Like they're thinking of getting married, yes.
Again, I would never tell somebody what to do with their life. I just think in this day and age, I just think there's way too many pressures. I think it's expensive to live. And I feel like there's so much more opportunity now, that, not that you couldn't be together, but I think everybody needs the opportunity to go and explore those things and not be, I don't want to say tied into a marriage at 18, but if you want to go to school, if you want to try a couple of different jobs, and I just think it's a lot of almost unnecessary pressure that you're thinking like, an 18-year-old kid is going to have to go out and support, a wife, and then if they're married and they're living together, then they're 19 with a baby. And not that you can't do it, I just think it's a lot of pressure and maybe struggle. I'm not saying you can't do it. If you're 18 and you're in a trade and you're making great money and you feel like this is what you need to do, then I think do it. I think the stress of being in college and being married and trying to pay bills and everything else, I think is a lot of unnecessary stress. And then I think that's when maybe problems in the marriage could happen, because then you're going to get resentful, because I wasn't able to do this because we got married at 18, instead of just waiting maybe a couple of years till, a little bit, until you're both maybe a little bit more mature and maybe a little bit more established in whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the last minute, very, very quick question. Answer very quickly. What would you say is the key to a happy marriage?
Compromise.
Yeah. I think what we've done, not only compromise, but I think we bounce things off each other, and we don't both do a lot of the same function. Like she'll do one thing, like a lot of times, because we live far away, for example, she's kind of taken on going back and forth to Kellenberg and being there. That makes my ability to work and do that easier. I'll do some of the financial things. She'll make sure things around the house are taken care of. She'll take care of the meals. And then there's times like I'll coach the kids' sports. And we bounce things off each other. And that's compromise, but it's also doing those things individually and then bringing it back to the marriage, so that we each play our role. And together we were able to accomplish more.
Right, well, I mean, compromise, and I think you have to honestly be able to call the other person out on something. and not get offended, because if I'm gonna call him out on something, he's gonna call me out on something. It's usually not because we're just being like rude and obnoxious. It's because sometimes like you're thinking one way, but you kind of have to look at it differently, or a bigger picture or something. And communication. You have to talk, even if it's gets heated or something, because if you sit and it festers, then you can't do that. So compromise and communication. How's that?
Valid. Okay. That was all the questions. Can you stop it? Thank you, Mr. Caselli.